Hello, welcome to lesson 85. This is called Converting Units of Capacity. Now we have learned about units of measurement, units of weight and mass, and that's all measurement as in length, and then mass as in how much something weighs or how much you have of something. And now we have capacity, which is actually measuring liquids. So if you look at these pictures here, there's probably two very familiar pictures to you, those of you that have been to the grocery store multiple times. You have half gallons of milk. You also can buy a gallon of milk, and those are the big jugs that you have. So you should understand and know what a gallon looks like, about how much a gallon is. Then you also have the big bottles of soda, which are measured in liters. You have 2-liter bottles. You can also have 1-liter bottles as well. So we call that capacity. Now the different units of measurement, I'm going to turn to this first before I get to my little picture, is the units of measurement that we have for the U.S. customary system. Now this is the most, difficult one to remember and memorize because you have the different numbers of different, multiples. We have 16 ounces is 1 pint, 2 pints is worth 1 quart, and 4 quarts is worth 1 gallon. Now quarts sounds like quarters, so that's easy to remember that 4 quarts would equal 1 whole gallon. And for the metric system for capacity, the only thing that we have is liters and milliliters. So milli, just like millimeters, takes 1,000 millimeters to equal 1 meter. Same thing, it takes 1,000 milliliters to equal 1 liter. And then converting between U.S. customary system and metric system, writing this down, you should have this chart written down at least. A liter is about 2 ounces more than a quart. So now we're going to look at this drawing right here that I have, and it actually has a little story to it that helps us remember the different units. I know a lot of you have probably used maybe the gallon man before or have used other ways of memorizing this, and this one I think is really fun and sticks with me the most. So hopefully if you don't know it already, this one might actually help. So we have, our story goes, in the land of Gallon, that's our land, the kingdom of Gallon, the land of Gallon, we have 4 queens. So there's 4 queens, and they're all pretty nice and friendly to each other because they all share the crown. We have 4 queens, which stands for our courts, and each queen has a prince and a princess. So we have our P's for our pints. So you have a prince and a princess for each queen. And each prince and princess has 2 children, it stands for cups. It has 2 children, and each child is 8 years old because each cup is 8 ounces. So this helps us remember that it takes 4 quarts. You have 4 Q's inside of the land of Gallon. It takes 4 quarts to equal a gallon. And then we also have a prince and a princess for each queen. So if we look at this diagram of 2, 4, 6, 8 takes 8 pints to equal 1 whole gallon. And then each prince and princess has 2 children that are 8 years old, so 2 cups is 1 pint, or 1 pint. So that means there's 4 cups in a quart, which means it would take, it would take 16 cups to equal 1 whole gallon. So if you draw this picture, it has a giant G, and then you can tell you have Q's. So you have 4 Q's inside, and then you need to make them big enough so that way you can fit 2 P's inside each one. And then inside each letter P, you're going to put 2 C's. So it's a big drawing, and we'll go over this again in class, and then hopefully it'll help us remember, and it'll stick with us as far as finding units of capacity. So back to our chart. We have our ounces covered, we have pints covered, so cups is the only extra thing that's part of the story that is not on our chart. So for example 1, we're going to look at this. We'll do more practice problems together in class, so we will have more practice with this. But example 1 says 1 quart of juice is how many ounces? Well, if I look at this, 1 quart of juice is how many ounces? Well, I know each cup is 8 years old, meaning it's 8 ounces, or each child is 8 years old, 8 ounces. So I have 16 in 1 pint. That means I'm going to have 16 in 1 pint. There's 2 pints in 1 quart. So that's 16 plus 16, which is 32. So it takes 32 ounces to equal 1 quart. Another way you can look at that is that we do have 16 ounces in 1 pint, and I know it takes 2 pints to equal 1 whole quart. So that's how I get 32 ounces. Example 2 says a half gallon of milk is how many quarts of milk? Well, we have our kingdom of gallon, and I split it in half. I'm going to have 2 queens, which is 2 quarts. So I know these problems were pretty easy to do, and we will be doing more of them, and I definitely find it easier to do when you have this great visual that you can just draw out with the letters that represent each one. And I hope you took very great notes as far as the chart for U.S. customary system and metric system, and as well as our land of gallon. And I'll be grading for participation in class. Thank you very much.